Del Mar is a prime example of a city where a whole neighborhood is threatened by sea level rise. Del Mar's mayor, Dave Drucker, explains how the houses along the beach are actually higher than the houses in the narrow lanes behind them.
The houses at the front row in some way are protecting all the houses east of there. And that becomes problematic. If they retreat, then that basically allows the ocean to take over the whole floodplain north of Powerhouse all the way to San Diego River. And that would in turn mean that everybody would have to leave their home, and that would wipe out about 600 houses in Del Mar.
Drucker says his city has a new local coastal plan to prepare for sea level rise. It starts with importing more sand to build up the beach. The strategy called managed retreat is not in this plan. Managed retreat could involve acquiring buildings in the path of the ocean and moving them inland.
Well, first of all, the numbers of properties and the expense of purchasing those properties would be extremely expensive. The question also is where would those people move? Could they move anywhere else in Del Mar? There just isn't the space.
Houses in North Del Mar can list at more than $20 million. Who would be liable for that loss if the city required property owners to retreat from the beach?
What does managed retreat mean? What's the liability of the cities and the state? And the state really needs, we believe, to weigh in on this and come up with, these are the rules of the road.
Most of us understand this is a reality that we have to deal with.
Imperial Beach Councilman Ed Spriggs had the same message for California coastal commissioners at a recent workshop for cities updating their local coastal plans, or LCPs. Spriggs says even the words managed retreat evoke fear that people will lose their homes, and that stops any rational discussion of preparing for sea level rise.
And once that has happened, it becomes very difficult in any coastal city where this becomes politicized, such as, are you going to be taking private property? Is this eminent domain, etc. Once those discussions get started, then the whole discussion of the entire LCP gets sidetracked.
Spriggs advised coastal commissioners not to require cities to include managed retreat as an option to their local coastal planning documents.
Rather, the LCP should look at projected coastal flooding. All the guidance is appropriate in terms of flood maps and overlays and city actions, etc. But we should not have the mandate of having to incorporate a form of managed retreat or planned relocation on a large scale in the LCP.
Madeleine Cavalieri, coastal planning manager for the Coastal Commission, says planners now accept that it will take time for people to come to grips with the data coming in about sea level rise and what it will mean.
We have made tremendous progress on understanding the vulnerabilities that are along our coastline, and our opportunities for responding to those and adapting to those. We will be able to move forward better when more people have an understanding of what the expected impacts are and what we can do about them.
But Coastal Commissioner Sarah Manzara says she's disappointed by any move away from prioritizing managed retreat as a strategy.
I'm really looking to all of you to make it politically viable. I understand that it's putting you all in a difficult positions where your constituents don't want to hear the phrase and have a lot of very valid property rights concerns, but I think it's incumbent on all of us together to change the narrative. This is a matter of survival for these communities and public health and safety, and to make the case for why it's necessary instead of shying away from it because it feels and is, politically dangerous.
Mayor Drucker says Del Mar residents are not denying that sea level rise will happen.
Well, Del Martians will deal with it when they see the actual impacts of global warming on a more weekly, yearly basis. And until that happens, it's still theoretical.
In October, the California Coastal Commission will consider Del Mar's local coastal plan to adapt to future sea level rise. It's not clear if the commissioners will certify the plan if it does not include managed retreat. Late last year, the Commission changed its recommendations on the possible sea level rise that all state agencies should prepare for by the turn of the century from 6 feet to 10 feet. Alison St. John, KPBS News.